in this quite a bizarre time of containment and so on, I thought it is good to address the topic or the matter of fear in general, and as a live decision. As a live decision, because it is quite clear then that a lot of people are acting, are behaving, are making decisions not on the basis of what they can hope in life, of what could be their project or their idea in life, but on the basis of fears. Fears, I put it in a plural because obviously it is when we are confronted with a lot of different situations that we have difficulty to deal with some of them, or how they are taking place and influencing our life. Then we have different type of fear. We have the biggest fear, or one of the biggest fear probably, which is the fear of death, the fear of dying, which also makes us to act and react in many situations not correctly, not according to the situation we are meeting, but according to the fear we would lose this life. So I'm not saying that that we should or that we can quickly become fearless. Fear has also some positive functions. To be more careful about some things, to pay attention about more details or more circumstances, so not to place our life at risks. So the point is not to become immune to any kind of fear, though it is a good achievement, but a difficult one. So meanwhile, we have fears, we are afraid about a certain amount of things, and it is somehow legitimate. But what is important is not to let this fear to overrule our life. So not to act constantly with the idea of what will go wrong. At least not constantly. Yes. That at time we are careful, it is normal, it is advised to be careful. But not to the point of being either frozen or to run away or to behave in a way which is not natural, because eventually one day something can happen. This is what I mean. And rather, instead of the fears, to focus on our hopes, on what we would like to do, on what we would like to see, on the changes we would like to see happening in our life and for the world. So it's a complete change of paradigm, it seems, because our entire society is based and somehow placed in our mind that we also should be more driven by fear than hope. This situation with the virus nowadays is a perfect, how can I say that? It's a perfect developer, something that brings to light, that shows how the society is functioning. You can see already since, 3 weeks or something like this, that the containment started in many countries. You can see already how people are changing. You can see how people are behaving for the good and sometimes for the less good. You can see how people let their minds to be completely manipulated by the mass media. And the mass media are playing a dirty role nowadays because they are under some type of influence. And the people who are influencing this mass media do not have necessarily our happiness at heart. So I will not enter into the discussion about what is the goal, what is behind, what are the reasons, what the governments are really seeking through or behind this situation. But more important than that, how we are placing ourselves, which kind of position we are taking, which kind of stand we are having. And at first, from our mind's point of view, whatever is happening outside, whatever people are telling, whatever situation we are encountering, is not what is changing our mind. It's not what should change our mind. We are the one deciding how our mind should function, which kind of direction our mind should go, and not the opposite. You can be in a state of emergency, you can be in a state of war, and have a calm mind, because it is not from the outside that the stress is coming. It is how you deal with a situation. And we can see that easily because some people in front of a little bit complicated situation, but nothing terrible, will completely freak out, will be panicked. And some other in war zone or war situation will be able to manage very well. So it's not a situation which contains how we should think. It is really from within our mind that decisions are made about how we should react, how we should talk, how we should deal with any situation we encounter. So this is very well existing and useful concept to have within the Tantra. Yes, when you know about the Vajrayana and how the Vajrayana works, it is not based on your fear. It is based on your hope. Yes, whenever we visualize ourselves as a Buddha, we visualize ourselves based on our hope. Yes, we don't visualize ourselves as a hell being or a ghost or an animal. We visualize ourselves as a Buddha, as an enlightened being. We know usually that we are not yet enlightened. So why are we seeing ourselves, visualizing ourselves as a Buddha? Because this is where we aim to go. This is what we would like to achieve as soon as possible. And in order to make something to happen as soon as possible, it needs to be in your mind. It needs to appear in your mind, to stabilize, to take an important part of your reality. Yes? We often emphasize on the fact that we are creating our reality. Most of the time, these are words. Yes, we read it, we kind of agree that we are creating our reality, but we are not experiencing it on a daily basis, because we forget about it, because it is simply not always easy to see. Even when we try to, how do I influence the trees? How do I influence the sky, the weather? How do I influence the wall in front of me? Yes, we have difficulty to make a connection between what makes our reality, what composes our reality, and our own mind. It is very difficult because we are absolutely not taught about this possibility generally, globally. And even within Dharma, it takes some time before to make this connection. On one side, we have teachings about the law of causality, about how karma works, that when we think, we are creating some energies, and this energy remain on our mental consciousness, and one day they mature and they give a result in our life. But often we tend to consider that the result of the past karmic causes are circumstances. I meet these people, I encounter this situation because I have created the karma for. So we are maintaining the idea or the concept that the external reality exists from its own side, but how it is shaped comes from my karma. And we are wrong in that. The whole of our reality is made by our own mind. Every dot of this reality is the result of my past accumulated causes. I see the white color of the wall. I see the different leaves of the tree. I see the various petals of a rose. My mind is behind this creation. Not in a figurative way, in a very practical way. I am making my reality. Of course, this connection is sometimes not easy to figure out because there is a delay between the causes we are accumulating and the result we are seeing. Nowadays, whatever makes our reality comes from some causes we have accumulated sometime quite long ago. And because of that, we don't have the feeling, we don't have the sense that I am creating it and I could have an influence on it. But I do. And I do at a very deep level. We often compare this reality with the dream reality, because in the dream reality, the situation can change very quickly. By thinking or becoming aware of a reality, we can direct some changes immediately. All right. Both reality are very similar, and we are creating both of them. But the dream reality and this awake reality still do have some differences. And among those differences is the more stable state of existence that it appears to have. So we can change more easily the dream than this reality. But the fabric which is behind is the same. It is from our own mind. Thus, if you can keep a positive mind, if you can keep a vision of your own as often as possible, that vision might become a reality. Because thinking again and again and again in a specific direction creates the reality which is connected with that vision. This we should be convinced about it, even if we don't yet understand exactly how it works, how we can make it work for our benefit and the benefit of the others. We should believe in it. In the same way, when we talk about the reality, we say, even if you do not see the reality as it is, because you have not yet realized emptiness, but at least you should constantly have in mind it does not exist the way it seems. It does not exist the way it appears to me, because it appears to me through my limited understanding. I have not realized emptiness, thus I believe in a reality possessing a certain inherent existence. Even if philosophically I convince myself otherwise, I do not see it, I do not perceive it, at least not for now. But if I have this conviction that how I see the things is not real, I think the reality exists from its own side, but it is not. It really shakens some false certainty. It shakens this idea that it does exist from its own side, independently from me. It does not. And the more I look at the reality with this background thinking that how I see it is not correct, because I see it as self-inherently existing while it does not, while I'm the creator of it through the system, the mechanic of law and causality, then the less I will be impacted by whatever I perceive. And the more I will have a kind of step back in front of what I encounter. I see a situation, whatever situation it is, I perceive that situation, but I know that the situation does not exist ultimately the way I think, or the way it appears to me right now. So how does it appear? And then I start to analyze a little bit what I observe, instead of being immediately affected and impacted by it. It is a very important help for pacifying and maintaining a pacified mind. So we see that we have two important points here. One point is trying to see the reality as it might be, on the basis of the teachings, on the basis of our meditations, understanding the law of causality, and based on the understanding of the law of causality, to observe within our own minds more the direction where we want to go, rather than the fear or the fears that we generate on the basis of an attachment to this reality, or attachments also in the plural to this reality, attachment to this, attachment to that. So every time we have an attachment for one thing, we have the fear to lose it. As soon as we have an attachment for ourselves, which is too big, for our ego, for how we appear in public, for what the other will think about us, then we start not to behave naturally according to what is unfolding on a daily basis, but we start to act on the basis of what the other will think. And the mind is constantly bugged by this. kind of concept and this kind of thoughts. So we have these two things to watch carefully. One, I should not be blinded too much by what appears to me. What appears to me is illusory. Illusory because it is a projection of my mind. And on the other hand, understanding the law of causality, I try to create a positive vision of myself and of my surrounding. Yes, you see the connection between this way of thinking and the Vajrayana methods. At several moments of our sadhanas and practices, we are purifying our environment. Everything becomes pure. Everything becomes the nature of our yidam. Yes, all the sentient beings are of the nature of my yidam. All my surrounding is the pure land of my yidam. Why? Because I transform whatever reality I observe into a pure reality. And I do that again and again and again till it really sinks into my mind. Till it becomes an automatism. So I start to generate more positive visions than negative ones. I base my reactions more on the pure vision of the reality rather than the fear that I have generated based on attachment and fear of losing this or that. These two main directions to give to our life are very important. Very important on an immediate moment, immediate basis. Right now, if I start to think in this way, I will benefit of it. My mind will be more relaxed, at least for a certain amount of time. But, you know, even if you spend 5, 10, 15 minutes happy, more than usual, is it worth the work? Is it worth the method? Because during this time, you do not generate negative karma, negative thoughts. If you are terribly afraid about your reputation or about your body, yes, afraid of losing this life, then you generate karma connected with it. You generate causes which are connected with that fear. You know, your mind is so afraid, panicked that this or that will happen, that all the connected actions and words will generate negative karma, might generate negative karma. At the contrary, if you have a peaceful mind, and if you observe whatever is happening to you with the understanding of causality, it brings really peace. It brings state of not yet bliss, but peace. And this is already a lot, because if my mind is more peaceful, less emotionally disturbed, what I will generate, what thought I will generate, what causes I will generate will be far more peaceful, far more positive than when it is overwhelmed by any type of fear or anger, or or most of the other disturbed mental factors might arise from fear, and fear arises from ignorance. So again, we can ask ourselves, what do I want for my life? This type of containment is ideal for that. Of course, many of you might be doing working by distance on computer and so on, but even though we have more time to think, more time to meditate and go a little bit deeper on what we have been doing so far, what the society has been doing so far as well, what we would hope for the society and what we would hope for our own life and our family and so on. Once we have thought about it, once we have gone into detailed analysis and we start to envision what it could be differently than now, how I would like it to be, then I will work on make it to happen. Yes, this is Mahatma Gandhi who said, be the world that you would like to see. So we need to live, to experience our reality as we would like it to be. It doesn't make us blind of what continues to take place around us and our disturbed emotion and the needs of the kids and the needs of the banks and so on. Of course, you know, I'm not talking about becoming completely disconnected from this conventional reality. But while we observe this conventionality and while we are dealing with it as we should deal with, we can understand its illusory nature and we can maintain as often as possible another type of vision, another type of perspective towards what we observe, towards our own life. What do we want in this life? How do I want this life to look like? For me and for the others, you know, especially once we have entered into the Mahayana path, what do I want for the others? What do I aim at practicing in order to fulfill the needs of the others? How do I change my life in order to be more efficient for the others? What kind of practices should I engage into in order to reach as soon as possible enlightenment or higher state of mind on the way to help the others? This way of thinking is somehow sacralized by the Bodhisattva vows. And many of you have taken already the Bodhisattva vows. This is what they say somehow. The Bodhisattva vows are helping us not just to look at the other sentient beings and say, oh, poor of them, I wish them good. But what will I do to improve their life? What engagements I will accomplish in order to be more efficient in my way of helping them? Right now, we can feel limited in our way to help the others because our vision, our way of seeing things is limited. We need definitely to come out of ignorance to have a broader view, more precise view upon the actions I could engage into in order to help the others. Before a certain level, we do our best, of course, and this is already great, but we are not sure about the efficiency of what we are doing because we are blinded by so many things at so many levels. So we are not sure about the efficiency of what we do. Once somebody reached the level of a bodhisattva and later on as a Buddha, there is such a complete perception of every details making the reality of all the sentient beings that we know what can be done or not, and when it should be done, and how it should be done. These are the skillful means of a bodhisattva. Yes. When we talk about the skillful means, it is not just that the bodhisattva has learned how to do more things. It is simply that he has learned how to define clearly what can be done, where, and how, using words, writings, paintings, or any kind of expression, which can have an impact on somebody at a given moment so that that person changes. Because this is also an important understanding to have. We are not changing the others. It's not possible to change somebody else. The others are changing from the moment they decide to change. Once they have decided to change, maybe they can ask advice and then they can follow our advice and so on. So there is a dynamic. But at first, a person needs to generate the wish to move on. If that wish is not generated, you can do whatever you want. You can have long debate. You can explain things in length, a lot of example and so on. It is like blowing in the wind. Yes, I mean, it does not have any impact. But if the person has created the cause and has generated the wish to operate some changes, then you can enter by this opening and help the person. But we don't see this unless we can see the mind of the others, the karmic causes of the others. So we need to aim at obtaining this capability. These capabilities are coming naturally when you progress on the path. When you pacify the mind, already you have a great deal of capacities which are uncovered. You have them, and potentially we all have the same qualities as the Buddha, but they are not manifest yet. So more pacified the mind is, and more potent it becomes. And out of these new potentials, you will be able to help the others more. So a lot is based, or should be based, on what we do to generate wisdom. Yes, wisdom is not something that jump out of the book. It's not because you read a book about emptiness that the wisdom of emptiness suddenly strikes you. Yes, you read words, you read teachings, and later on, your meditation, your practice is what will make this knowledge to come into effectiveness, to come into experience. I'm afraid that a lot of Buddhists are bypassing somehow the importance of meditation. Under a simple word, so many things have been placed. Now, if you just, I don't know, you teach relaxation, people will call this meditation. But it is not. The way meditation is really the way we deal with our mind. We come to know it, know how it works, and how it does not work. And how the reality which we are taking so materialistically does not have any inherent existence. Meditation is the bridge that will help us to switch from knowledge into experience. And only the experience or experiences will change our mind. It's not from one day to another that suddenly, poof, we become wise. It is by practice. Practice of meditation, no doubt, the basis, the ground. the unbypassable. And all the other practices, when you do your sadhanas, you accumulate merits. When you do prostrations, you accumulate merits. When you recite the mantra of Vajrasattva, you purify negative karma. So both merit accumulation and purification of the past accumulated causes are somehow cleaning our glasses, cleaning our way to perceive the reality. When you accumulate merits, positive karma dedicated for the sake of all sentient beings, it helps you to progress on the path, to meet more circumstances that will enable you to go further on the path and discover deeper teaching, deeper teachers, and progressively to see things more clearly. Purification of negative karma is also extremely important because every negativity is like a veil to your consciousness. We don't see things correctly because we have so much mud on our glasses. So whatever we are doing in terms of practices and purification will help us to see better. The better we see, the better we can help. This is for sure. So the better you see things, and the less you will be afraid by any things. Because you understand that whatever could be a source of fear does not have any self-inherent existence. If it does not have any self-inherent existence, why should we be bothered by it? Why our mind should be affected by it, disturbed? Knowing that any disturbances of the mind is the cause to generate negative causes, negative karma, negative imprint. And out of this negative imprint will come our suffering. And through our suffering, not only it is unpleasant for ourselves, but we cannot help the others. So if you take really your bodhisattva engagement at heart, it is, okay, I will not say 24/7 because we need to sleep and to disconnect a little bit for now. But as often as possible, you need to remember yourself about meditation, about having this different depth of view upon the reality, upon the samsara, upon the existence or non-inherent existence of the samsara. Doing so, less fear, and of course, consequently, more hope. More hope because whatever motivation you could have lost years after years, maybe of complication, of difficulty, of trouble, you will understand that it depends on you. It depends on how you are perceiving things. Some situation can be taken as bad at first sight, but when you observe them, you can see that, well, it might not be so bad. I can make a good use out of that situation. I will learn something out of this situation. If we have the correct way of thinking, we never lose. We never fail in anything. Because even if a project does not come to the end you expected, you have learned through the process and learned about yourself as well. And that learning is a winning, not a failing. So however some situations are ending, if you have the right perception upon it, you have gain something. This is up to you. This is not up to the external situation. External situations are as they are. You have a car accident, you have a sickness, you have a containment, whatever you are facing. Well, it is like that. You know, we should not be Don Quixote and fight against the windmill. So there are a lot of situations you cannot change. If you cannot change them, why to try? Why to lose energy trying to change something you cannot? Focus instead on what you can change. That is your mind, your view, your practice, your meditation, the way you talk to your kids, the way you talk to your wife or husband, the way you deal with the neighbor. All this is in your hand. The way you earn the money right now, the way you deal with the bill, the way you are subject to the government and so on. This is not directly into our hands. Something we cannot change. So let it be. Focus on what you can change, which is already a lot. You can change a lot. Every day. It's not the idea that we can change our mind only if we go in a retreat, if we go in a cave somewhere, or in a little hut, just to meditate and practice 24/7. No. Fortunately, because many of us cannot anyhow do that. Not yet, at least. So it is important to understand there are many other ways to change our mind on a daily basis. Focus on that. Focus on however you can change your mind. Learning from every moment. Somebody talk to you in a bad way, you start to feel a kind of frustration or a kind of anger. Analyze it. See it, recognize it, and analyze it. Is it good? Not good? Why does it come? How did it come? Why? Should I fall into it or not? Etc., etc. Use that moment to learn. And learn it knowing that within yourself you have all the qualities of a Buddha, all the potential of a Buddha. And that ultimately, when your view will be clear, pure, what you see as the samsara nowadays might have a completely different structure, existence. Well, that's already, I think, quite a lot of things to think about and to apply, yes. It's good to listen to a teaching. It's good to read a good book from a famous teacher or look at a video on YouTube about teaching about from this or that high lama. Perfect. Always good. Always bringing some kind of motivation. But if we do not apply on a daily basis, then we are not practicing. If every evening you are doing your bell and dorje rituals and incense and a little bit of light and food here and there, but when you stand up, you have not the motivation to change your state of mind in the remaining time ahead of you. What is the use of the practice? I'm not saying it is not useful. I'm just asking what is the use? It is useful because you accumulate merits, and merits will always be of some benefit. But this is not the core of the practice. The core of the practice is in your hands. It does not depend on any circumstance. It does not depend on a gompa. It does not depend on a temple. It does not even depend on an outside teacher. At time, it is good to have advice and meeting and blessing from the teachers, but on a daily basis, your practice and how fast you are changing depends on it. Vajrayana is the path of transformation, and it is the path of quick transformation, because we know there is no time to lose, because we know there are a lot of sentient beings we could benefit if we would be a bodhisattva or a Buddha. So there is no time to lose to reach enlightenment. And because there is no time to lose to reach enlightenment, we need to use all our possible time and resources to walk in that direction. And that means every day. And that means as much of every day. Not just when you sit to do the rituals or the formal practices, but in every moment of the daily life. There should not be a difference between the practice and your life. Sometimes people who knows me on a daily basis were wondering, where are your formal practices? We can see some minutes here, we can see some hours there of formal practices, but the rest of the time, it looks like a normal life with the family, with the kids, with the job and everything. Because there is absolutely no difference in my mind between my practice and the rest of my life. My life is a practice. Every single moment of it needs to be thoughtful, careful, aware, and dedicated for the sake of all sentient beings. Then, if your whole life, if your entire life becomes a practice, there is no doubt that you will progress quickly towards enlightenment. Okay? Good.